Good day, and welcome to NACTV Reads the Neepawa Press. My name is Christine Waddell, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. You may be joining us online at Neepawa Access Live, WCG 12, Channel 30 Direct Sightline, MTS, or Bell Express View. Now, these broadcasts are made available and possible by our volunteers, our staff, advertisers, and donations from viewers like yourself. If you enjoy what you see and hear, please consider supporting us by a donation or by volunteering. And you can contact our office at 204-476-2639. And if Nikki's not in the office, you can leave a message. And now, on to why we're here in the first place. The Neepawa Press, Wednesday, April 19th, 2017. And this week, we have a photograph on the front with the headline, Teaching the Importance of Wetlands. And it's Nicholas Kutecki, a nature interpreter with Oak Hammock Marsh, shows off a coyote pelt to grade 1 students at Hazel M. Kellington School on Tuesday, April 11th. And it looks like he's maybe getting some questions. And this story is by Miranda Leyburn. Hazel M. Kellington Elementary School's On the Go program from Oak Hammock Marsh was a big hit again this year, despite a snowstorm in late March that delayed some of the class's presentations. The program saw guest nature interpreters from Oak Hammock Marsh Interpretive Center, located 20 kilometers north of Winnipeg, teach and interact with the grade school's children and explain to them the importance of wetlands. 8 classes at HMK had their programs on March 6th, but after the huge winter storm the next day, the remainder of the students took in their presentations on April 11 and 12, including Mrs. Dirkson's grade 1 class. The students gathered around nature interpreter Nicholas Kutecki as he showed them pictures of the different animals that live at Oak Hammock Marsh and taught them many different things, from what the water in the marshland is like to how the different animals in it survive the winter. Amphibians, he noted, are able to survive the harsh winter by slowing down their heartbeats and freezing nearly solid or burrowing into the mud beneath the water. Kutecki stressed how important it is to keep pollution out of the waterways, since these animals absorb the water and any possible pollutants into their skin. But amphibians, like frogs, were not the only animals the grade 1s seemed enthralled with. When discussing the physical makeup of the snowshoe hare, how it is able to stay above the snow, and the way its fur changes colors based on the season, one student couldn't help but express his admiration for the animal. "Snowshoe hares are the ninjas of winter," the smiling child said. This is continued on page 5. Kutecki amazed the children by passing around the pelt of a weasel, coyote and beaver, and even a piece of brown bear fur. He spoke about the different eating and hunting patterns various animals have, and about the migration patterns of ducks, geese, and other birds. They follow the same rivers, the same hills, they go past the same farmers' fields every year, Kutecki told the children. If we got rid of a wetland, when these geese fly back up, where are they going to go? The students were fascinated to hear about how workers at Oak Hammock Marsh gently catch the birds and put identifying bracelets on their ankles so they can be tracked on their southerly journeys. They will catch a bunch of birds or ducks, then see how much they weigh, see if they're a boy or a girl, if they're healthy, how well they're going to fly. Kutecki noted, explaining to the class, that when the birds land in the other wetlands in the United States, the staff there are able to look at their identification and know where the birds have come from. The students were amazed to hear about the beautiful monarch butterfly and the many generations that it takes for them to complete their long migration. They will migrate all the way down to Mexico, but it takes them 4 generations, Koteki told the children. The butterfly that starts flying will die, but its great-great-great-grandchild will make it to Mexico. They've been doing this for so long that we don't even know they know how to do it. The children loved hearing about foxes and how they hunt their prey by tunneling through the snow and jumping and diving through it. Koteki got the kids to pretend to be foxes themselves, jumping into the air and back down again on imaginary prey. Near the end of the presentation, the students also got to make believe they were a squirrel family storing nuts for the winter, trying to outsmart the foxes that were on the prowl. It showed the children how all of life is interconnected, from the nuts that feed the squirrels to the squirrels that become dinner for the foxes. If we lose one, it causes a lot of problems, Koteki told the children. That's why we try to protect wetlands like Oak Hammock Marsh and forests like Riding Mountain National Park. We have to protect the places these animals need. We need to make sure we keep the places safe so that they have their homes. If they don't have their homes, they disappear. The students proved they learned a lot from the presentation with a game that involved them sorting through the different types of animals they learned about into categories based on how they survived the winter, whether they died during the cold months, migrated, hibernated, took super naps, or stayed active. Mrs. Dirksen said her class really enjoyed the presentation by Koteki. The presenters are always really good with the kids, she enthused. Alan Hankey, principal at HMK, said the Oak Hammock Marsh presentation has a long-standing tradition at the school, and that this year he wanted to specifically thank the White Mud Watershed, who have sponsored one full day of the presentation for the children. And it's another photograph of nature interpreter Nicholas Koteki showing the students a piece of brown bear fur during the on-the-go Oak Hammock Marsh presentation. It looks like they had a lot of fun. We'll flip back to page 2. The Neepawa Press Looking Back, compiled by Cecil Pittman. And the headline this week is 1967, Stony Creek School Surrounded by Water. And the photograph shows, it won't show up that well online. It's an old photograph from the Neepawa Press archives. 50 years ago, Stony Creek School was surrounded by water after the White Mud River overflowed its banks in 1967. And for those of you who may not be familiar, the little white schoolhouse with red trim down at the park near the swimming pool in Neepawa is Stony Creek School. It was moved here years ago. So let's go to 80 years ago, Friday, April 9th, 1937. L. Vivian entertained the provincial intermediate hockey champions, the local hockey club executive and Mayor Pollock, at a banquet at the King Edward Hotel Tuesday evening. 70 years ago, April 17th, 1947, Bernard Turner has disposed of the Neepawa Ice and Cartage Company to Robert Ferris Jr. and James Miller. Mr. Turner wishes to thank his many patrons for their support in the past and trusts they will continue to favor his successors, who are both veterans, with their patronage. 60 years ago, April 18th, 1957, Oberon youth Stanley Oliver wins University of Manitoba Award at the commencement exercises of the diploma class in agriculture at the University of Manitoba. Stanley Oliver was presented with the United Grain Growers Award for higher standing in the course on farm business management. And 50 years ago, Tuesday, April 18th, 1967, Stony Creek School at Lyons Riverbend Park was surrounded by water over the weekend as floodwaters from the White Mud River and Stony Creek overflows the low-lying areas east of Neepawa. Homes in the Valley View development at the southeast corner of town were threatened. Early Saturday morning as a flood from Stony Creek crested. Other than the little seepage in some basements, no damage was reported. 40 years ago, Thursday, April 21st, 1977, Neepawa Town Council expressed concern at its meeting Tuesday night about the rising cost of fighting frequent grass fires. Firefighters were called out on a half dozen times in the last few days, and council was on the verge of passing a bylaw Tuesday night to charge the cost of fire calls back to the persons found responsible for lighting the same. However, the suggestion came from Councillor McKelman that there may already be laws in effect which give the town authority to either prohibit setting fires or to charge costs as they see fit. 30 years, Thursday, April 16th, 1987, Neepawa home purchased as a tribute to internationally renowned Canadian author Margaret Lawrence, just months before her January 5th death, will be dedicated by her son and daughter. David and Jocelyn Lawrence had confirmed they will be in Neepawa for the dedication ceremony occurring during the Margaret Lawrence Week being proclaimed by the Neepawa Town Council for June 21st to 27th. 20 years, Monday, April 21st, 1997. Kelwood School will graduate its last class in June after a last-ditch attempt to keep the elementary school open failed. At last Tuesday's board meeting, Turtle River School Division trustees debated a motion to keep the school open. When it came down to a vote, the results were tied, 5 in favor and 5 against. When there's a tie, it means the motion is defeated, said Kelwood area trustee Ken McCurdy. McCurdy was behind the move to rethink the decision to close the school that was made at a board meeting last month. 10 years ago, Monday, April 16th, 2007. His house wasn't the only thing to go up in smoke. A Neepawa man, police didn't release his name, also lost a marijuana grow operation when fire broke out in the Main Street home last Monday. Neepawa Fire Chief Scott Gibson said the homeowner who left his 207 Main Street home earlier in the morning called in the alarm after returning around 11 a.m. to find it filling with smoke. Gibson said the firefighters fought the flames, which originated in the basement, for hours, but the interior of the house was gutted. He's paying damages at around $100,000. There was nothing we could do to save it, Gibson said. Firefighters finally called it a day at 6 p.m. Investigators with the Office of the Fire Commissioner and the police were then called in. Spruce Plains RCMP Sergeant Eric Davidson said light and equipment consistent with a grow operation as well as some plants were found in the basement of the home. Page 3, the Neepawa Press opinion page. We have a local letter sent in by Loren Huck, Board Chair, Westlake Employment Skills and Services Center, Neepawa, Manitoba, clarifying Westlake Employment's request. We welcome your coverage of our funding request presentation to the Council of the Town of Neepawa. Westlake Employment asks for support from town of Neepawa, Wednesday, April 12th edition of the Neepawa Press. However, we feel that we must bring some clarity to your story. As an employment center servicing the town of Neepawa and area, we are underfunded to sustain a full 5 days per week. The province of Manitoba currently provides us with approximately 79% of our operating funds to meet this service level. The balance must come through a partnership relationship with the town of Neepawa and the RMs of Rosedale, North Cypress Langford, Glenella Lansdowne, and Westlake Gladstone. Historically, Westlake's total budget needs were met by a combination of support through both federal and provincial government sources. In 2014, Service Canada was reorganized and, as a result, withdrew their direct funding, leaving many employment centres short. Westlake Employment Skills and Services Centre is seeking to shift focus away from grants, but rather towards an annual funding relationship with local governance, based on area client contacts, tempered with the new census data. We felt this to be more fair and equitable to all those local government areas that we serve. What we positioned with the town of Neepawa was a request of $6,696.52, their portion of our upcoming budget shortfall of $12,700. The above RMs will be asking to make up the balance based on their resident usage and census numbers. As you can see, we are not requesting the full $12,700 from the town of Neepawa as stated in your article. Through this formula, we are asking for approximately 95 cents per capita to help sustain our services to the community. Another employment center in Western Manitoba was successful in meeting their shortfall at $1.12 per capita. If successful in raising the required shortfall, Westlake will be in a position to move from our presently reduced 4-day week back to a 5-day week in our new contract period from August 1st, 2017 to July 31st, 2018. This is of particular importance given that the 27% growth in population in Neepawa area over the last 5 years and the effect this has had on local jobs and the economy. In our presentation, we mentioned that we did not wish the partnering arrangement to be a final solution. We are still striving to maintain an active lobby with the appropriate federal and provincial authorities in restoring Westlake Employment Centre to a sustainable level. We look forward to this matter being resolved in positive and progressive manner. And again, that's from Loren Huck, Board Chair, Westlake Employment Skills and Services Centre. We have a letter to the editor from Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Poll proves Manitobans oppose carbon tax. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation, CTF, is calling on Premier Brian Palliser to oppose Ottawa's imposition of a carbon tax in the wake of a new poll showing a majority of Manitobans don't support the tax. The CTF is also calling on Premier Palliser to reaffirm his commitment to hold a referendum before imposing any major tax, including a carbon tax. Manitobans don't want a carbon tax that costs people money without actually helping the environment. Said Todd McKay, Prairie Director for CTF. Manitobans are sending Premier Palliser a clear message: don't impose a carbon tax without a referendum. Main Street research found that 50% of Manitobans oppose a carbon tax, 39% support it, and 11% are unsure. Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall is actively opposing Ottawa's plan to force provinces to implement a carbon tax. Premier Palliser has thus far refused to sign on to the federal carbon tax plan. When asked whether a referendum should be held prior to the implementation of a carbon tax, 60% of Manitobans agreed that a carbon tax cannot be imposed without putting it to a vote. The Progressive Conservative platform clearly promises to restore Manitobans' right to vote on any proposed major tax increases. Former Premier Greg Selinger paid a huge political price for raising the PST without holding a referendum, said McKay. This poll makes it crystal clear imposing a carbon tax without a referendum would be another betrayal. Premier Pallister needs to be straight with Manitobans and confirm he won't impose a carbon tax without a referendum. And that's Todd McKay, Prairie Director, Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Looking for thumbs up, thumbs down presentations or submissions, 100 words or less, and those can be submitted to the Neepawa Press. My Neepawa. A moose on the loose. A curious moose looks out from the trees just 2 miles west of Gladstone on March 27th. The photo was submitted by Nancy Jackson. And what's your Neepawa? We're asking readers to share with us their pictures of past and present Neepawa. To share a picture, please email a high-resolution version, 1 megabyte or higher, to news@neepawabanner.com or stop by the office at 243 Hamilton Street in Neepawa. Please include your name as well as a description of the photo. Well, that was a surprise-looking moose on the loose. And another story by Miranda Leyburn for the Neepawa Press. Tea Festival coming. Spring is often the season when teas are held, whether in honor of Easter or Mother's Day or to celebrate the season in general. And with the surge in popularity of tea consumption, thanks in part to the trendy tea shops like David's Tea, more people are trading their cup of coffee for a mug of steaming or a glass of iced tea. Arts Forward in Neepawa is embracing new tea drinkers and faithful sippers alike at its tea festival on May 11th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. The organization has partnered with local clothing store It's Time and will be hosting a tea representative and various other tea-related information at the evening. Kathleen Gillis of Arts Forward said she's excited for the festival. The accessibility of many new types of tea has certainly helped its popularity, but in rural Manitoba there's always been a fondness for tea as well. And we've had teas here with entertainment, but never an information night about teas, she explained. There will be a talk on the history and health properties of different teas, as well as instruction on how to steep tea and what to pair it with. There will be snacks as well as different teas to try and buy. Festival goers will also learn how to use tea in cooking and baking. According to a 2015 Canadian Tea Fact Sheet and Trends, put together by Tea and Herbal Association of Canada, Canadians drank over 10 billion cups of tea in 2015, 56 cups more per person than in 2010. Also in 2015, the Canadian tea market in grocery stores was worth $426 million, with Manitoba and Saskatchewan's market at $37 million. We have a photo from the Yellowhead Center with the ice being removed for the season, and that photo was taken Friday, April 7th. Scraping it down to the concrete. Beautiful Plains Community Foundation has put a notice in the newspaper this week, and it says, did you know there is a will week? Wills and estates, April 24th to 28th is will week. After providing for your loved ones, you will want to provide a clause in your will to bequest funds for the Beautiful Plains Community Foundation. Charitable bequests honor the values and passions you held during your lifetime while providing for the future of your community. Charitable bequests are eligible for tax receipts, and the resulting tax credits can significantly reduce the tax payable in the final year of your life. A bequest can be made for a specific dollar amount, a percentage of an estate, or all or part of the residue of an estate. For information, attended a presentation of wills, bequests, and estates giving on May 10th, 2017 at 1 p.m. at the Neepawa Public Library multipurpose room. So if you'd like to know more about bequests to charitable organizations, that's May 10th, 1 p.m. at the Neepawa Public Library. And on page 5, we've already covered the Oak Hammock Marsh presentation, but at the bottom there is the Teddy Bear Picnic back at Riverbend Park on June 20th. And Miranda Laybourne has written that for the Neepawa Press. And there's a banner file photo of children playing in the park. Children and parents enjoyed an obstacle race set up at the Riverbend Park during last year's Teddy Bear Picnic. The fun and information event is free for all preschool-age children and their parents. And the article goes on to say, the annual Teddy Bear Picnic hosted by Arts Forward will be back at Riverbend Park in Neepawa on June 20th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's a chance for preschool-age children to bring their favorite stuffed animal and have some fun while learning about healthcare in non-threatening environment. The event was first put on by the local regional health authority and public health. Arts Forward has hosted the free event for the last 6 years. According to Kathleen Gillis, who works for Art Forward, it's a great opportunity for children to become more comfortable with the whole healthcare world. The children take their teddy bears to the event, and their bears get treated by public health nurses, ambulance, RCMP, and dental health providers, as well as nutritionists. Tongue-tied today. She says the children see how their bear gets vaccinated or has its teeth brushed, and therefore it won't seem so scary to them the next time they go to see the doctor or when they see the RCMP. Caregivers and parents are encouraged to pack a picnic lunch to enjoy at the event. There will also be stations with music, activities, and crafts. Gillis says that in the past, the event has seen over 100 people attend, and she hopes it will be popular again this year. The Teddy Bear Picnic, June 20th at Riverbend Park. And that brings us to page 6. Where are they now? Catching up with individuals. And this is by Rick Sparling for the Neepawa Press. And having covered most of the individuals featured in his most recent book, Amateur Hockey in Neepawa, a scrapbook, local author and sports historian Rick Sparling has attempted to locate and catch up with some of the individuals featured in his first book, The History of Public School Hockey in Neepawa. And he has 3 individuals this week. Larry Dimery, 1959-1960 Junior Rangers. Larry Dimery left NACI in 1968 and joined Manitoba Hydro for about 3 years before heading to Portage La Prairie, where he drove bus for Webb Bus Lines for 20 years. During that time, he also worked part-time for the Portage Fire Department, and upon leaving Webb's, he became a full-time firefighter for an additional 17 years and retired from that in 2009. After he retired from the fire department, Larry took on a part-time job helping out in the landscaping business, which turned into more or less a full-time job. He is now fully retired and living in Portage with his wife, Barbara Nee Webb. They have 3 children, Tanya, who is now 46, Clifford, 44, and Stacy, 41. Larry golfs, fishes, and enjoys camping in his leisure times. Gilbert Susky, 1959-1960, Maple Leafs. Gilbert Susky left school to work for Manitoba Hydro in Brandon, where he worked on construction. He worked for another year or so in Dauphin, working with cement, building a substation there. Gilbert moved to Winnipeg at that point and worked for McLeod's and then into Western Paint and Wallpaper. He went back to school to take engineering at Red River College, and upon graduation, he got on with the Manitoba Development Centre in Portage, where he worked for 32 years until his retirement. Gilbert married Joanne Barreau from Portage, and they have 2 children, Nicole and Nadina. They also have 2 grandchildren, Ethan and Tylee. Gilbert and Joanne have retired in Portage. They have a nearby campsite where they enjoy themselves in the summer months and keep busy with house repairs and yard and garden work. And the third one to keep track of is Terry Bates, and he was 1959-60 Red Wings. Now, if you listen to those dates, those are 3 teams all in the same year range: the Junior Rangers, the Maple Leafs, and the Red Wings. Terry Bates left school in 1965 and worked for CN, starting off as a section hand and ending work with them in 1972 as a diesel-electric crane helper. He went to the Neepawa Gladstone Co-op as a mechanic from 1972 until 1978, and went to Murray's as a school bus mechanic until 1980, at which time he went to work for the Beautiful Plains School Division at their bus garage, doing mechanical work once again. After 17 years, in 1997, he became transportation supervisor until his retirement in 2012. Terry's first marriage was to Francis Dervesky, and they had 2 children, Beverly and Teresa. He had a stepson, Andrew. Francis passed away in 1978. He remarried Carol Dridger from Carmen, and they have retired in Neepawa. In the summer, they camp at Spirit Sands RV Park, just north of Glenboro, and in the winter, they go to Southern California. And those photographs have been submitted. One is the Larry Dimery's photo was courtesy of Carol Bray. Gilbert Susky was a photo courtesy of James Martin, and Terry Bates' photograph was courtesy of Ron Forsman. And that's catching up with individuals. And that, other than the advertisements and flyers, is the Neepawa Press for April 19th, 2017. If you've enjoyed listening to the Neepawa Press, thank you very much, and your support and financial and emotional is greatly appreciated. And don't forget, there is also bingo on Wednesday nights, and there's the locations you can pick up your cards and have a chance. One of the big prizes was won last week, but the biggest one is still available, the big pot. And so you can watch NACTV on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and have a chance at winning at our bingo. And if you're interested in volunteering, please contact our office. The other thing I always try and mention is that should you be watching a show and something becomes wrong with the video or the audio, please phone us, leave a message, leave the time of the program, which program you're watching, the day, and we will see if we can deal with that and make sure that you don't end up with a frustration. We dealt with that at Christmas time with a particularly a faulty CD that was in the system, the way it was loaded into the system, and people were frustrated because they didn't see the end of a movie. And we try and deal with those things. But if you don't phone us and let us know, we don't know. And so we appreciate any of those calls that you can give us to let us know when programming gives you grief. We'll do our best to accommodate that. And if there's an event you're at or something that you particularly enjoy, we have cameras available and some training available to you, and you can help us with our programming. There was a training session last night, or on Monday night, here at the NACTV studios, thanks to Ivan Trail. He gave a camera workshop, and there is another camera workshop on the Thursday this week. And there we hope to have more of those workshops available so that other people can be part of our programming. And there's only so many hours in the day, and only a few volunteers can't reward you with much programming. But if you are able to come and be part of the solution to that, if there's sports, right now we're looking for people to help with sports for the Cubs baseball this summer, and there's a special tournament coming that will hopefully have some people that can work on cameras for that, and commentators as well. So thank you very much for joining us again this week, and have a wonderful, wonderful week, and enjoy the summer weather. Thank you very much for tuning in to NAC TV.